My name is Roberto Ruju. I manage strategic partnerships for Southern Eastern Europe, Middle East for AdMob. And I'm here to talk to you about monetization of your apps and mobile sites. Before we start, just wanted to get an idea of who we have in the room. So can you put your hand up, please, if you have or have developed or currently have an Android app or any mobile app? Okay. Put your hand up if you have developed mobile specific, mobile optimized internet site or a web app. Okay. And if you are using or have used mobile advertising to monetize your apps or mobile sites. Okay. So, at least I'm not preaching to the choir too much. Thank you very much. Okay, just a little bit about AdMob before we go ahead. So for those of you who don't know us, AdMob is a company that was acquired by Google. It was acquired last year, but the acquisition was cleared this year in July. And we're still currently integrating. AdMob is a global mobile advertising platform. Some of the stats there, actually, they're already out of date. We currently have reached over 330 billion impressions since launch, running at over 1 billion impressions a day, so 30 billion impressions a month, just on mobile, and really across the world. And we cover all formats, so from very standard old feature phones to Android phones and iPhones, etc., with some rich media formats. And currently have about 23,000 publishers on our network, of which the majority are apps, and Android apps are already over 5,000 and growing very fast. So this is something which obviously is of interest to a lot of app developers and mobile site developers. Okay, so what am I going to talk to you about today? I'm just going to touch briefly on monetization. I mean, this is a 101 class, so some of it will be very obvious to some of you, so apologies for that in advance. I'll go quite quickly on that, then go into a little bit of history on advertising evolution and look a bit to the future, where we think it's going in terms of formats and some of the newest formats today and how they're working and how we're trying to get closer to the experience of engagement that we have already on, for example, on online or on video. Talk a bit about the other side of the coin, which is app promotion. Of course, it's okay to monetize your apps or your sites, but if you don't have enough traffic, there's nothing to monetize. So, what are some of the tools at your disposal from the other side as an advertiser to really get your app more known, more well known? I've got some case studies to share with you on that, and then a few practical hints and tips on that. So hopefully this will be of interest to you. Okay, so in terms of monetization, of course, the first question that I always get asked is, well, should I be developing on web apps, mobile optimized websites or apps? Is app a phase? Where's the money? And truth is, it really depends what you're trying to do, and we have a lot of very successful cases of both. So really, in terms of monetization, I don't think there's any silver bullet that says, no, apps actually are monetizing much better on our network today than mobile internet sites. I think generally speaking, when it comes to certain categories like games, etc., games monetize very well. But also do a lot of new sites that are web-based, and increasingly, with HTML5 and web apps, we're seeing very good monetization on web apps too. So I don't think it really matters, and you should not use that to drive how you develop, and really rather think about what you're trying to develop and how you're trying to engage. Obviously, you have the advantage with a web site or a web app that it's going to be useful on a much broader platform of terminals. With an app, you're going to be more restricted or going to have to develop more, but you're going to be able to go into much more detail in terms of functionality and much more advanced functionality in certain cases. So the other question obviously always is in terms of platform. You know, do I develop for high end or low end? And again, you know, across the world, and of course, what's relevant to you is in part, you know, the Czech Republic, but not only, because mobile has this wonderful feature whereby, you know, we have people in Latvia who are developing stuff that has got millions of daily impressions in the US. So really, you shouldn't just be constrained about your own geography, but really be thinking about what can monetize across the world. And today still, you know, we have massive volumes in mobile internet across less developed countries, particularly in parts of Asia and Africa. And those monetize very well. You know, those countries are mobile-first countries. They've skipped the traditional internet, the PC, the wired internet, and have gone straight to mobile. And they're very rudimentary phones with very high monetization, very high engagement rates, and very high click-through rates. And on the other end, of course, you have the USA, you have the Western European countries with Android, with iPhone, with very high-end ads, which monetize very well, which are now getting brands really interested. So again, think about your target market in terms of what you're trying to do, and you can monetize on both. And you know, you don't feel that you have to be in one or the other. Of course, I know this is an Android conference, but I'm trying to give a slightly broader view to everyone in terms of monetization. And of course, Android is growing increasingly in those countries. And the truth is, within about 12 months, you know, with the sub $100 Android phone, this kind of question will become less relevant. We will start to see, and we are seeing already, a huge substitution of the old feature phone with low-cost smartphones based on Android platform. And I've been hearing about a $30 Android phone that's supposed to be coming out in one country, according to an operator. That kind of price point obviously makes this kind of question irrelevant. You can then develop on Android and be present anywhere in the world. And then finally, in terms of business model, you know, obviously there are, I'd say, three main ways to monetize, of course. The first is a purchase price or a recurring subscription. The second is in-house, in-app or ongoing purchases, so virtual goods or recurring additional subscriptions or unlocking functionality, etc. Whether it's a freemium model with a free entry point or paid plus more functionality. And the third is obviously advertising. And those three, of course, are not mutually exclusive. And a lot of people think of them as either do one or the other. But the truth is, depending on what you're doing and what your competitors are doing and how good your app is, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to mix all of those and, you know, have a slightly less functioning, even if it's not free, application that has some ads and then ad-free, you pay more. Although, of course, most people will have a light version that is free, just to draw in the customer, maybe ad-supported, and then perhaps upsell, or even just run it on app-supported. And again, I guess the bottom line of this is to say to you, if we look across our 23,000 publishers that we have on our network, we have success stories of each of those. You know, obviously the ones that are only paid, we don't see directly, but what we generally see is the promotion side, where they might then be using us to promote the purchase of the app if they're only paid. And of course, if they have advertising, we see them on our network through advertising. And really, you can be successful in any of the three, and there's nothing to stop you experimenting across all three. And we see a lot of that, people crossing over, trying ads, putting them in, even when they're paid, different price points, seeing what the user reaction is. Maybe even in different markets, you can switch ads on and off in different markets. And in some markets, they may be much more accepted if you're charging, and in others, they're not, or you may have different competitors. So really, experimentation is very important. And there's no fixed rules for that. I'm going to speak from now on mainly about advertising. I mean, obviously, the other way of monetizing on Android, I know right now, we could spend a whole session on. I know there is also the issue right now that the marketplace for Android in the Czech Republic allows purchase but not selling. I think that was mentioned in a couple of sessions earlier as well. I can't go into more about that, but of course the fact that we recently added the Czech Republic as a buying market should be a sign that obviously we are committed to that market, and there will be steps towards adding the other side as well, even though I don't have the crystal ball to tell you when. But you know, monetization obviously has a lot of important components in terms of subscription models, and I think those of you who were at the Froyo session earlier were hearing about the licensing server. So you know, there are a lot of things in Android that help you now manage that side. And as I said, I think we could spend a whole session talking about this. So I'm going to go more onto the advertising side. But of course, if we then have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those. Okay, so I talked about different monetization, and the question is on advertising. You know, we've heard a lot of hype over the years, and I've been in mobile advertising now for over 4 years, which for this industry is quite a long time. And I remember a lot of presentations. I remember one presentation in particular from the head of an agency in Spain, mobile agency in Spain, and every year he would have the same presentation, and then and it was, you know, this is the year of mobile, and every year was the year of mobile advertising. And then at one point I pointed out to him, and he actually then did. The next year, he kind of did a joke where he had, you know, 2005, and then scratched out 2006, scratched out 2007, all the way. But then he said, no, this year really is happening, and we've heard it all before, but actually, I think what we're seeing now is some underlying facts, some underlying trends that really start to show us that there is real money in the system, and when there is real money in the system and people are starting to transact, that's when advertising is going to follow. So here's a little quiz for you, and if anybody guesses it, I'm going to give out a few of these. What do these 4 things have in common?
They're expensive.
They're expensive. No, that's correct, although it's not what I was looking for. What else?
They're shiny.
They're shiny. They are all shiny, yes. That's correct, so you get one anyway.
They're premium products, so like luxurious.
Yeah, they are premium, the high-end products, yeah. Still not what I'm looking for.
They all have wheels.
They all have wheels, yes. Yeah, somebody pointed that one out at the last one too. Okay, I have one left, and that's only for the correct one. Sorry? They're all luxury items. That's also true. Okay, well then you can, no, it's fine, because I don't think anybody's going to get it, so you can have this.
There don't need any AdMob, but anybody collecting these?
Okay, so those are all true. What these things also have in common is that they were all purchased on eBay on a mobile phone. So that's pretty incredible, because they are very high-end items, very expensive. You know, I don't even know if I buy them on eBay on my PC, let alone even just go and buy them on the private market. And yet people are actually using their phones, and people use their phones to buy these items. And that is something, because that was not happening not even 1 year ago or 2 years ago. And in fact, eBay is currently making a mobile transaction every 2 seconds. Through its 2 apps. And last year, eBay transacted $600 million, and this year they're on track for $1.5 billion through mobile phones. So that is quite a staggering figure. This is really new. This is not, this is quite an inflection point on the kind of m-commerce that we have been seeing in the last 5 years or so. Another example, of course, of those kind of stalwarts is Amazon. Last year, in 2009, Amazon actually sold $1 billion through mobile phones, and this year you can quite probably expect them to be doing about 3 times as much. So suddenly there is a lot of money coming into the system. And when that happens, that's when advertising really starts to come in, because there is real money to be pushing these kind of transactions, and it's real business. The other factor, of course, and I'm sure everybody's seen this graph, is that, you know, in a very short number of years, there will be more mobile internet connections than fixed internet connections. That is, you know, beyond any doubt. And in fact, in some countries, it's already happening. So Finland next year will have more mobile internet connections than fixed internet connections. And of course, a lot of, like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of developing countries already just skipped the fixed internet phase completely and went straight to mobile internet. So, you know, mobile internet is no longer the poor cousin of the fixed internet. And, you know, I keep reading every day about trials to, you know, 1 gigabit speeds over wireless, etc. So the kind of problems about bandwidth, etc., you know, will get resolved in a pretty short time. So as mobile has evolved and now all the underlying factors are there to actually propel this in terms of low-cost, high-end phones like Android, in terms of low-cost tariffs. I know in Czech Republic they're not as low-cost as they could be, but they will be. We see this trend in every country. It's pretty unstoppable. At the same time, you know, what's been happening to the advertising side, because that's been evolving too. So let's take a look at the offline advertising. So this was Alka-Seltzer about 100 years ago. This is, you know, a recent version of the same ad. Please don't do this at home. So you know, advertising has evolved quite a lot. So, and this has also happened to mobile advertising, except that instead of over 100 years, it's been perhaps more like over a decade. So let's have a quick look back over the years. So in 2000, we were already doing mobile advertising. As you well know, it was called, and continues to be called, messaging, SMS. And SMS continues to be a very important market, of course. But you know, it's purely a push market. It's not graphically rich. It's seen as intrusive. And it suffered a lot of baggage in terms of spam and scams and that kind of stuff. But it's still a very important way to connect, of course, and particularly ongoing conversations with brands that already have their customers. It's a great way to keep in touch, but less so for lead generation. So that was the only thing we had, you know, about 10 years ago. And then the first text links appeared towards the middle of the decade, and then the first banners, the graphical banners, around 2006. And then when the iPhone arrived in 2007, mid-2007, we actually, AdMob in fact was the first company to actually start creating rich media ads. So what you have there, and I'll show more examples of different formats later, is actually an expandable canvas ad. So already in 2007 we were able to have something which was approximating more what you can see on the fixed internet. And then last year we launched interactive video. This is self-contained. I'll talk about it more later. But this was already a big step up, and it's quite a sophisticated ad format. We had the first $1 million campaign on mobile last year. So in line with the kind of things I've been saying before, you know, mobile advertising is there today. People are spending $1 million on campaigns already as of last year, and that's an important milestone. And you know, what's happening now? So hyperlocal ads, you may know we've launched already in the US about a month or two ago. So already you can go online and create an ad for mobile, specifying a radius. So I'm a plumber and I want to target people searching for, you know, plumbers or emergency in water and whatever, but only within a 5-mile radius, because that's when I think people are going to be willing to, or I'm willing to travel that distance, you know, to make it worth my while to do a house call. And then my ad will only appear on, you know, on phones that actually are within that radius, or phones that, you know, are registered to a base within a certain radius, depending on. But basically, the ability to add the local component really at a hyperlocal level, and this will obviously roll out. So we're starting to see this kind of side which now starts to overtake the capability of the online world, of course, because the location really does become a defining characteristic of the mobile, and the ability to target and really become relevant and add a lot of value to the advertiser in a much bigger way, which then drives more money into the system for people who, like you, who are then monetizing. And, you know, of course, we'll see this then evolve over augmented reality. I mean, obviously, there are prototypes of this already on Layer, and those kind of apps where there are some sponsored layers like the estate agents, of course, is the most obvious one, but also restaurants, particularly the chains, the McDonald's and the Starbucks of this world. These are the most obvious examples, but you can extend that much further with the kind of hyperlocal targeting I was talking about before, and then, you know, and then really create an immersive experience. And of course, the other side of this is the NFC. I think Eric Schmidt just showed yesterday, demoed that in terms of, I think the prediction is like 90% of new high-end phones are all going to have NFC, you know, the ones that are produced next year and that are sold next year. So NFC becomes a reality as well. It's no longer a niche thing, and you can really start thinking about redeeming coupons in a way that that is easy and doesn't require, you know, brand new hardware, etc. So yeah, this is where we're going, and of course, tablets add another way to be mobile, and therefore the ads on tablet. We already have formats specific for the iPad, and and we'll have the same for Android tablets as well. So, you know, this then starts to bridge the gap between the PC in terms of experience, but the mobility of the user, like a mobile phone. And of course, the advertising possibilities are much more interesting in terms of graphically immersive, just like the PC. So, you know, in 10 years, really, we've seen quite a revolution. We've gone from this as an ad, you know, to something which was basically then just the standard banner and text link, quite boring. This has been with us now for 6-7 years. And it's still very big, of course, like we're saying, in a lot of parts of the world, until low-cost, high-end phones like Android replace feature phones. But it's still very big business. But in more developed markets, and increasingly, we will see something rather more engaging. So I'm just going to show you a short video with some of the variety of formats that we do, but representative, of course, of what's in the market, and some of the things that are to come as well. I hope the sound is there. Yeah. So everything you saw on there where there was an iPhone can also happen on Android. We have complete parity between those platforms. It wasn't always that way, of course, since iPhone started first, but all the formats that are available there, even the high-end ones, are also available within Android. The differences are more that some things are possible in apps today that are not possible in mobile internet. So I'll talk through some of the formats we saw. And the first one, which is Canvas. So when you click on an ad, it'll open a canvas, but you're still where you were before underneath. It's just covering the app or the site that you were in. This can be half page, or it can be a full page like this. It can be a whole site that's basically a microsite that can be browsed by the user. It can have embedded video. It can have basically, it's JavaScript. Canvas will also be in HTML5. And when you're finished with that, you can play video, etc. And then when you're finished with that, you can basically close it, and you're back where you were before. So as a publisher, you haven't lost the user. They don't have to go back to your app or back to your site after they viewed an ad. They can still continue, and the user experience, therefore, is much better because of it. Another format that's available on the high-end phones is interstitials. In this case, there was an example there. It's animated interstitials. So these have very good interaction rates. We only sell these kind of ads to agencies. So these are not available on self-service. Our ads basically, like most, just like we have two sides. One is the self-service side for the lower end ads, and one is that these kind of formats are only sold to agencies. So you know that if you are going to have interstitials like these, which are of course more disruptive, can be more disruptive in terms of being a push model rather than a pull model, they will always be graphically rich. They will always be high quality because they have only been created by brands through their agencies rather than anybody just creating one and putting it up there. Okay. The other format that's interstitial, it can be click banner, but also interstitial, is the interstitial interactive video. So this is quite an advanced format. Essentially, it's a self-contained video player within our code, within an app. It allows you to play a video. It's bitrate adaptive depending on the connection, so it minimizes the latency for the user. If they have a worse kind of connection, they're not going to be waiting for longer. And also it has buttons at the bottom which are configured by the advertiser, which allow the user to interact while they're watching the video, such as going to a Facebook page or adding to Twitter or going straight to Amazon to buy whatever, or go and buy tickets for the movie or anything like that. So this is this is quite an advanced format. I'm just trying to get back my mouse. Apologies for that. Okay. Yeah. And the final format I wanted to show you, which is just really launched now, ads on HTML5. We're going to be developing more formats like that. But this is an example, again, which can run on iPhone and Android right now, if I can get it to start. Okay. So that was just a quick overview of some of the formats. And really the point there to say that, you know, we're out of the age of the boring banner on mobile, finally into an era where people are actually really interested in interacting with ads and actually find it's something which adds to their experience. The other side of the coin, of course, is being able to be seen and promoting your ad. So monetization is not possible if nobody is obviously using your ads. Obviously, on the one side, you know, if you're in the Android market, there's a whole series of things which are obvious to you as a developer before you even think about promoting yourselves in terms of just basic levels of quality, certification, such as Mobstar or other equivalent ratings, which you know, which ensure that you're at a certain level. And adding viral features, etc. Of course, all these things help. But beyond that, of course, it's getting really crowded, as we know very well. So the marketplace has about 100,000 apps now. The iPhone App Store has over 300,000. So you know, how do you get seen? How do you get found? So here are some quick case studies of developers that, or of application developers that have used mobile advertising to their advantage with quite limited outlays, but quite good results. This is an application by a paint company. It's called Color Snap, and it's very simple. You take a picture of a color, something that you like. You point to that color, it recognizes it, analyzes it, it then matches it to the paints of Sherwin-Williams, which is the company that makes this, big paint company. And then you even have, of course, a store finder, and you go there, show them that, and you get your paint. So your room looks like a yellow New York taxi, if that's what you want. The point, though, is, you know, they launched the app. They're a big brand. They're well known in the US, but essentially they were, you know, they were at the beginning there with a level of downloads which was not particularly satisfactory. They launched a campaign with us, and we really just did a 2-day, what we call a burst campaign. A lot of traffic in a very short time, rather than sustained over more time. And after the first day, essentially, they multiplied by 5, second day by 6, the number of downloads. And then what happened after that, and the advertising really was over basically 2 days, then, of course, the number of organic downloads increased significantly, simply because of the exposure from being higher up in the rankings. So you don't need to have massive budgets to promote yourself. You can then start using some of the mechanics of the App Store and Marketplace to make yourself more discoverable afterwards. And some developers might maintain a small amount of spend just to keep it in a certain range where they get a high number of organic downloads. And in terms of impact, you know, this jumped 50 places in this was in the US App Store, you know, in 3 days. So that was, you know, quite a huge jump, really, for an app just based on one campaign. We have lots of examples like that. Finger Frenzy, another example. Essentially, point there was that for them, the campaign actually drove higher results than actually being featured in the What's Hot section of the Apple App Store. So in this case, actually worked really well for them. The other tools you have at your disposal, of course, as well as simply paying for a campaign, is that with us and with obviously many other platforms, you can devote part of your inventory to promote yourself. So you can create your own ads and sell usually the paid version if you're putting it in the light version, or if you have several applications or sites, of course you can cross-promote those within the ones that have most traffic and get the other ones going. And this is a free service. So, you know, even if you don't want to spend money, you can obviously do this. What we try to do is really create an overall relationship with our partners, with our publisher partners, and really start what is a virtuous cycle. So if you actually get money through advertising and then you reinvest that money into the advertising side, any part of it, We also then usually add a bonus to that, so at least usually 20%, sometimes depending on the season we may even put more than that. And so you actually get free money to then promote yourself more than you've actually spending in the first place. And then on top of that, you can promote yourself. And the other thing to remember, of course, is, you know, like I said at the beginning, that you're not constrained to your own country. As a mobile developer, you know very well your traffic is everywhere, your eyeballs can be everywhere. So it's important to choose a partner that is going to be able to monetize every single impression that you have, you know, even if they're in Africa or if they're in India or, of course, or the US, etc. So a global partner like us can monetize in any country. And getting started is very easy, so what we usually encourage people is just go out, try it, put the code in. You can be up and running in, you know, in an hour or so, and then see if it works for you, and tweak it and see what. So experiment, and experimentation is usually the best way to get to something which is the best result for you, because there's no single cure. And obviously there are a set of tools, a lot of online tools which can allow you to optimize, to find out how you're doing. So we have real-time traffic, geographical splits, how much you're earning, how much each app is doing. So you can also see, well, is it better for me to devote more to my self-promotion, or am I getting money from the network? Or if I try putting a price on the app instead, what happens to the advertising? And you can see in real time and do all kinds of analysis and reporting on this and find the best model for you. Which is kind of, this is what it's about. So Sherwin-Williams, for example, when they did the example before for the Color Snap app, you know, they did a whole series of creatives, and then they could see the ones that were working the best for them, and then they were promoting those. The other thing which we say, which I don't think a lot of people say, because it's not apparently necessarily in our own interest, but actually I think like Android, we believe in openness, and we believe in giving you the tools to actually experiment and find what works best for you, rather than trying to tie you into one particular network. We bought a company last year called Adwell, a mediation layer, which aggregated various networks. We bought it and we made it free. It used to be a paid service. It took a cut of the revenue. And we made it completely free, and it's open source, so you can look at the code, you can see that you can even host the server yourself if you want, or you can use the web tool and simply use the open source client in your app. And what it does is allows you to use us and any other network that you want, or even your own ads, and then dynamically or in real time just assign different percentages of traffic to the different networks. So you can experiment and see where you're getting best results and tweak that until you get the monetization we want. It's a free tool. We give it away. You're free to use it because we believe that you should really be experimenting. And if you're going to be using us to monetize, it's because we're giving you the best, and not because, you know, you've signed a contract which is tying you in for 12 months or something like that. So, you know, the big one is there's no magic formula for landing the, you know, the big catch, but there are certainly a lot of examples of that, and I'm sure they're all companies which you've probably heard about. All these are on our network. During the World Cup, a guy in Holland just had the idea of doing a Vuvuzela app with all the shirts of the world. I'm sure most of you probably downloaded it. It was an incredibly annoying app. Not quite as annoying as the actual instrument itself, but almost. But you know, this guy was making tens of thousands of dollars a month just in advertising, out of nothing. So that's the power of mobile, really, the ability to create business models like that and create livelihoods and really good success stories, you know, through advertising. Another one, of course, which you all know. If you have kids, you definitely know, but probably even if you don't. So Samo lives in Slovenia. He founded Outfit 7 about a year ago, actually. It was October 2009, and just had the idea of the a cat that you talk to and talks back to you. This is on Android and on iPhone. And got 10 million downloads in the first couple of months, and is making many tens of thousands of dollars a month through advertising, and has been for several months. So it's not just like a one-off thing, and it's actually lasting. And we have lots like him, like the Vuvuzela app. Very, yeah, absolutely.
About the talking cat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any banner there. What kind of advertisement does it have?
No, it's usually banners. That's not always a banner present, but yeah. And you know, we have a lot of long partnerships as well. So Backflip, I'm sure you know, is a very successful, probably one of the most successful. Started off on the iPhone game developers. Now they've ported almost all their games also to Android as well. They've been with us since the beginning, really. At least 3 years or so since iPhone started. They were one of the first ones. So well, we disclosed, or they disclosed, I can't remember, in May, that we're doing 100,000 a month with us. Actually, then an article came out more recently where apparently they are making a lot more now. So, these cases exist. Of course, these are the success stories, just like the VC class before, for those of you who were at that. Because it's always good to talk about the big success stories. But the truth is that we have a whole range of developers who are doing very well on mobile advertising, even though not necessarily mobile advertising is the only revenue stream for all of them. In fact, even Backflip has paid models. You probably know they have upsell. You can buy the Paper Toss World Tour version, which costs more. Some of their games are free, like the Ragdoll Blaster, and then you buy the full version with more levels. And advertising is in the first one. Advertising helps them sell the second one. So really, they have a mixture of all three models. They have freemium, they have paid, and they have advertising. And they found something that works really well for them. So again, experiment and try it out, because it's an important revenue stream. Okay, so that's really all I had for you today. Thank you very much. So we've looked at the evolution, we looked at different models and the various formats, and we looked at some success stories. And if you have any questions, don't forget to leave feedback if you have the app. Best thing is to do it through the app or the web app of, and after this, there is a meet and greet at 6:30. I have a question over there.
I just want to know if, because Google with AdSense as well, so AdMob and AdSense will join somehow.
Good question. Yeah, so obviously when AdMob was bought, Google also had AdSense for mobile applications, which still exists. Currently, the preferred path for sign up for new accounts for new publishers is through AdMob. What we are now doing already is backfilling AdMob. We have started to do this now and currently rolling out. Is backfilling AdMob with AdSense ads. So AdMob already had a pretty high fill rate, but anything which was not filled will now have Google Ads in it. And that is the first stage of integration. What you will see in a few months, in the coming time, is really the combination of the two, the best of those two. As you know, AFMA, the Google product, has contextual advertising. We have performance-based targeting. So you will see a combination of the best of those two. So look forward to that, because it's really about delivering the most monetization for you.
One more small question: if you have some statistics on the Czech market, because I don't know what's potential for mobile advertisement in Czech Republic.
I can't share any specific numbers with you, but certainly within Eastern Europe, in terms of volume, the big markets are Poland and the Czech Republic. In terms of monetization, the Czech Republic monetizes quite well, much better than the average of Eastern Europe, which tells me that there is an interest of advertisers in this country already on mobile advertising, although not obviously at the same level as Western countries in terms of average revenue per 1,000 impressions. However, we are seeing very strong growth across the whole region, to be honest. We're seeing strong growth everywhere. But the Czech Republic is definitely a part of that. And as I said, in terms of monetization, it's the highest, which is good, which is great. Yeah.
Are you planning on having an Adobe Air SDK for AdMob?
Another what, sorry?
An Adobe Air SDK.
I don't think we. I don't know if we have any current plans for that right now. I can't really comment on specific things in the roadmap, unfortunately. So currently we have SDK specifically for Flash ads.
It's only for Flash.
Yeah, correct, exactly. And then the other two we have obviously iPhone and Android. And and 3. We also have Palm OS. We constantly review platforms as they grow, and we'll develop platform-specific SDKs if they get to a certain point. So while I can't tell you whether or not we have something in the pipeline, we don't have it right now, but it may be possible that we would.
Technically-wise, how does it work? Do you actually open a WebKit window and render an HTML content within the SDK shell, or whatever you launch within the iPhone or Android application?
So I think, yeah, right now it's, I believe, and now you're starting to, because go into a side that I may not be able to answer entirely. I think it's JavaScript, but we're obviously working on HTML5 fully compliant.
Technically, it would be possible to open the page. Let's say I think it's an URL that you call. You get some content together with JavaScript, pictures, and stuff like that, and then you can render it any way you want.
Right.
So you might be able to implement your own implementation for.
In theory, yes, yes. Yes, it's going to get easier to do that, obviously, as we move more towards full compliance.
Is there some easy way there to monitor conversions?
Yes, so I didn't mention that. Thank you for raising that. We offer conversion tracking for downloads. So if you are, whether you are spending money or even, I think in future when you're just doing house ads, you are able to track the number of conversions. Now conversions work differently. On iPhone it's the number of downloads, and on Android it's actually if it's been opened the first time you open the app. But essentially, yes, you are able. Not yet, but we're working very actively on that, as you can imagine, because obviously the tracking of the conversion path is something that is clearly very important for us in general at Google in terms of delivering pure performance and being able to monitor that. So you should expect to see that on the phone as well. So we're definitely working on ways, several aspects that can be linked all the way into the chain, and not only on mobile, if you know what I mean.
For that I can use Google Analytics.
Yeah, correct. Sorry, first, yeah.
As you might know, the Android market is for us closed for selling. And if I want to promote my application, my free application using AdMob banners, will I run into some similar obstacles, or it is
No.
more difficult?
No. No, no. First of all, yeah, unfortunately, as I mentioned at the beginning, it is closed for that, but hopefully that will change. But of course, if you're not transacting through the market, it's right now a separate platform, so you can put a free app out there with advertising and receive money in a check account. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you compare prices for prices of click, web, and mobile? Is mobile the same price or cheaper?
Yeah, it really, with mobile there's a much bigger variability around pricing than there is on internet, on the fixed internet. I think it's a function of, the fact that it's still relatively less mature. We're seeing 20% growth a month. I mean, it's still an incredibly fast growth market. I say 20%, it's anywhere between 20 and 50, depending on the market. I mean, it's incredible still, the amount of growth. So in that kind of market, dynamics are a bit skewed. Supply and demand are playing a catch-up game between themselves. So what you see is in some countries, monetization is down, in others it catches up, and then it's much higher. So there's a massive variability. And when we look and compare that on the fixed internet side, even with with Google, it seems to be much more uniform in general than it is on mobile. On average, mobile clicks tend to be, mobile monetizes better in terms of impressions, but again, it depends on the market. So, in markets where we have CPM ads, like certainly Western Europe, and now increasingly also in other countries in Europe, you can be selling even banners at, or some of those formats we saw there, at over 10 euro, even 15 euro CPM. So there is the ability to maintain a certain amount of higher pricing with those kind of formats. On the performance side, the clicks targeted to a country start at 25 cents. If you go and buy the clicks on the platform, there will be 25 cents if they're targeted to a country, and then they'll be targeting fees on top of that. So that's, of course, the minimum price in terms of it's a bid market. So depending on the country you're in, you're going to have to spend more than that to actually get any reasonable volume for your clicks, right? So the pricing is similar in terms of the structure, but the reality in terms of the supply and demand means that the auction, the clearing price to actually get enough volume for your campaigns can be a lot higher in some countries. So it can be significantly higher than 25 cents. Although I'm not an expert on the internet pricing side, so like I said, I give you my impression, and it's certainly much more variable in mobile, but certainly maybe below internet in some countries and above, but I think on average it's higher monetization right now.
I wonder if it's possible to use the advertisement in games like product placement, let's say. For example, let's say Doom application, Doom-like application, and I go by the big banner, real live advertisement from AdMob. Something like this is possible.
I'm not sure I fully understood what you're asking me. So
Let's say there is a game like Doom on iPhone.
yeah.
And you go in the
Okay. So okay. So actual in-play placement. Okay. So there are no examples of this on mobile yet. Some of you may know a company that was called Massive. Yeah, you know it. So Massive was a company that was doing that on Xbox. It was actually acquired by Microsoft, and it did exactly that. It worked with Electronic Arts and other publishers to make their games able to accept dynamic or certain posters, and then those would be rendered dynamically inside the game. It's quite exciting, and you'd be climbing a wall, and that in 3D, full rotation or whatever, there'd be a poster for an upcoming movie, and that could be refreshed, of course, over the air or through the broadband connection. So that model has not appeared on phones. I think the size of the screen is a limitation. I mean, that's probably the main point why. The second reason is, of course, we are still trying to, in some cases, or we're finally now reaching the scale on standardized formats where, you know, it's enough for agencies to really start taking notice and putting the money in. So we need to get to a similar scale in total as the internet before we then go down to a much smaller niche like that, and then create a market around that. If we did that today in mobile, it would just be too small for the effort. But I think the screen size is also obviously a limitation. Those are quite complex ads. They can be rendered in 3D. They might be at an angle. So you need a pretty big screen for the impression to actually mean something. Of course, with tablets, that might become more possible. So who knows? But currently, I know of no models at all that are replicating the massive model on a phone. Okay. Thank you very much. Like I said, thank you.